Just put me something in the chat box area. Let me know. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me good and see me okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. So I think I'm in the right place now. At first, I did something a little crazy. Bear with me. It's all brand new for me. So finally, YouTube allowed me to go live. So here I am. All right, cool. I see your message. Thanks. I was just trying to make sure I had it right. I was clicking the wrong thing at first, but hey, I'm here. So nonetheless, I'm here. So hey, hey, hey. Thank you for joining. So I'm Sheena, in case you guys didn't already know that, but just giving a few minutes for people to join our discussion today. So we'll have a little talk about women and firearms in the United States. It's a hot topic, always. Very political, but I don't want to be political about firearms. I don't want to be political, period. So we're not going down that political rabbit hole. But we will discuss and tap on some things that has to do with that world because hey, that's the world we live in. Um, so one of the things I want to point out to you guys first is that I am a licensed firearm instructor, and this is why I'm doing these things. I love firearms. I love the Second Amendment right for us to be able to bear arms, and it's a bit controversial because of all the harm that firearms can actually cause. But there's many cases in which firearms actually save lives. So we wouldn't even be here in the United States if it wasn't for the use of firearms. So I don't know why people neglect to understand that, how wrong or how right it could be. The fact is, we need to have that right to bear arms because we are our first line of defense. Sure, we have the government. Yeah, the government can help. Yeah, the military can help. The police can help. We have all those things, but we are our first line of defense. So, with that being said, we got to make sure that we are equipped to be able to handle things before any type of authorities get on scene. So that is one of the goals that I have is to make sure my students are equipped with the knowledge and skills that they need to be able to help themselves in case they have an emergency. Um, but yeah, so as I go through things, definitely don't hesitate to just jump in and ask whatever questions you guys have. I do have an agenda of information, but it's very up to you guys if we want to go down those discussions or we have more things to discuss. So definitely don't hesitate to chip in. And I do have moderators. If anybody's out here acting crazy, saying crazy stuff, I'm sorry, you're going to get kicked to the curb because here we're going to have a safe space to discuss things. And it's okay that somebody is very against your view. That's totally okay. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with somebody having a different opinion than me, as I do know, again, guns are very controversial, very political. So not everybody's going to agree with everything. So I guess let's go ahead and get started. So I definitely have done firearm training for the last, gosh, I can't tell you how many years right now, as my company is for what 13 years old. So we've been doing so much training over the years with customers, and it just kind of prompted me to say, hey, look, ladies need women instructors, and that is something that my husband actually had to coach me along and help me understand. Because at first I was like, no way, ladies are okay. But the more I do it, the more I enjoy it. I absolutely love doing this job. And so it's dear at heart to me to make sure that women are empowered to live their life, live their dreams, and be able to be their first line of defense. And it's very dear at heart for me also for children, that children are protected. So that's also another avenue that I'm going to take to make sure that we are equipping our children with the right information. Um, so, first thing on my agenda is just making sure you guys understand that jump in whenever you guys need to ask questions. I'll do my best, and between myself and my moderator, to be able to answer those questions for you guys. And I just thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers plus. Last time I checked, I believe it was 1,060. And so, really, really big accomplishment. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited about that. As I'm learning, this journey being a YouTuber is not easy. It is not easy at all. But I appreciate it. I love the journey. It's been quite an experience. Anybody else out there who's doing this, being a YouTuber, congrats to you, and just keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. It's definitely, the reward is worth it for sure in the end. I haven't gotten the big award that I'm looking for, but you guys are helping me get there. So thank you. I appreciate all your help. So anyway, so our topic of discussion is women in firearms in the United States. Okay, so as we may have some people who join from all over the world, I'm happy to have your input because honestly, the way people view firearms is very much depicted on how they live, where they live. Do they have firearms where they come from, or do they not? And so that very much dictates how someone's point of view is towards firearms. So it's one of those things where it's important to know that we have to live in this world together, but no one shoe fits all, right? So we have to keep in mind that one of those things that we have to be respectful of others. So again, any comments that's a little bit outrageous, you're getting kicked to the curb. Okay, we're not playing none of that, disrespect right here. Everything is all about respect here today. All right, so let's jump on in it. So, important discussion for women in firearms is addressing that firearms are one of those things that some will say that we need them, and some say that we don't. Okay, and particularly women. Okay, and it's a lot of different controversy about that. When it comes to women in firearms, because some people believe that women can't handle firearms and that there's stereotypes out there that we should handle only certain types of firearms. And so I'm here to rebuttal quite a bit of that, as I've already done in one of my videos. If you guys have already catch that, it's one of those things. It's very very funny how these stereotypes are and people putting us in a box. Well, definitely, I am here as a living proof of breaking some of that stereotype to say that some women are not interested in firearms, or that majority of women are not interested in firearms. That's one big one that I've come across, and I mean, I'm a living proof of that. And there's so many other YouTubers out there doing this that are definitely enjoying being around firearms, doing firearm sports and things of that nature. So you guys tell me what you guys think is one of the biggest stereotypes that we need to do a myth buster about. You let me know if it's something out there that you've come across or experienced yourself. So when it comes to, let's see if I can read some of this because I'm kind of far away. Okay. So somebody said, don't kick me for this, but why women need guns? Men should protect women. Congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. I'm a fan and I just have that question? Good question. So that's a great question. It's literally simple said and done. That we all are our first line of defense, regardless male or female. Regardless if the police or we have a husband or we have a cousin, we have a dad. Anybody can go out there and protect the shore, but they got to get there first. And we're there first. So we have to be able to protect ourselves. We're our first line of defense, and we have to know how to react in that situation. Even if it is, ladies, that you don't like guns, I'm okay with that. But defend yourself. There's more than one way of doing this, okay? So, guns, I understand, are not for everybody, but defense should be for everybody. And how we go about that is very well different from one person to another. Okay, so women need guns because of weird men. I make sure my wife is strapped. Good job, Michael. Good job. And there is a lot of weird men out there. No offense, guys. Hopefully, none of you guys out there. I don't think so. None of my students, none of my subscribers. I don't think I have weird subscribers and students. But it's one of those things where we do live in a world where women are. Put in these weird situations with some guys having different mindsets, usually revolving around sex. And it becomes very intimidating and scary for women. And then some women have found themselves in some really bad situations because the man felt like the woman was not available or not able to protect herself, or no other guy was in her life to protect her as well. So it goes a long way to say that a woman needs to know how to protect herself, regardless if she has a husband, a dad, or an uncle or whatnot, because you just never know what happened when it happens, and whoever's going to be able to come to your rescue. You just never know. All right, so somebody else asks, if you listen to my breaths closely, you will hear the words "I love you" coming out with every single one. I am literally living with you and only you. I love you. Okay, okay, um, okay. All right, so I'm just gonna just say okay to that, and thanks very much. So when it comes to some of the crazy messages, again, you will get kicked. So we got some moderators to help with that. Um, well, anyways, yeah, that's the weirdo stuff that we were talking about. So we definitely got to protect ourselves, and that's one of those things where that's just proof right there. Okay, so let's see. Another thing on my agenda here to talk about is first of all, I do want to ask you guys, do you guys have any stereotypes that you've come across yourself or even thought about yourself as far as women go with firearms? You have any stereotypes that you just think, oh, that's really a thing? So it's really cool that you can actually Google and go to YouTube and see the shooting competitions. How many women are very much into firearms? There's whole arenas of firearm sports that women do, and we master it. We've been doing it for years. I mean, the list goes on and on. I can't even tell you all the names of the ladies that's out there that's doing this thing big. I mean, if you guys even have kids that are interested in doing firearm sports, it's a really good way of a living. You go around and do these tournaments. You could be in the Olympics. You go around the whole world. You win different trophies. Um, you win money. It's a lot of things to go around with shooting sports. And I have actually trained quite a bit of students that I felt was like, okay, you might be somebody, might be a contender for that. And especially I've had some minors that attended with their parents, and we did a little bit of firearm training with these kids and their parents. And boy, I tell you, those video games, whoever told us that video games wasn't going to land us to do nothing good in life? I know I heard that in my entire childhood, but now I can tell you video games come in handy. It's like literally hand in hand with the video games that they play, like Call of Duty and so forth. They play so many other games out there, all these shooting games. They go hand in hand with the hand and eye coordination. And these kids pick up these guns and they learn the skills very quickly, but with that comes a great responsibility. So definitely understand that anytime I take any children to the range with their parents, of course, it's always going to be with their parents being present. They are get a lecture from Sheena about the fact that you make sure you don't touch this firearm unless your parents are present when they say that you can. You know, always make sure that you're being safe with it. Keep it pointing in a safe direction. Don't put your finger on the trigger until you're actually ready to shoot. And please don't post any pictures or videos of yourself online about this. If any of my students are here right now who's come with their kids, they can probably tell you guys I've definitely told those kids those same things, because it's very dear to my heart that these kids get on social media and they're putting themselves out there in bad light about firearms. And I tell you, the consequences are not good. They can mess themselves up getting into college. They can mess themselves up for a working career. And so, even when I have people who are just young, not necessarily a kid, maybe over 18, even then, I'm still preaching to them about be careful about who you send these videos and pictures to. Be careful. Make sure that you only share this with people that you really absolutely trust. And don't talk to people at work about this, about you doing firearm training. It's so sad that how much it's a controversy. I've had students that have called me and said that they've had problems at work because they talked to a coworker or they showed a coworker a picture or a video of them at the range, and they maybe have said that they are getting a concealed carry permit or they're getting some training so that they can learn about firearms. And the backlash with it has been crazy bananas. Like, I am appalled at the fact that you have some people that are so afraid of guns that you just merely communicate with them that you're trying to learn about it so that you can defend yourself. The most ridiculous story I feel like I've had is one of my students is a nurse and she works at night, okay? And her coworkers and her were leaving work for that morning, and they were saying, their goodbyes, have a nice day, get some rest, see you tomorrow night. And she said, well, I'm not going to get any rest yet because I'm going right to the range. And they were like, what? So she was interested to tell them about what it was that she was doing, and they were interested to hear. They were asking so many questions, and one thing led to another where she's showing them pictures and videos of the last time she went to the range, and they were just like, oh, okay. They were so excited about it even. But then she gets a call the next day from her supervisor telling her not to come to work because she was under review because one of the coworkers felt threatened. That was a whole bunch of BS, okay? How do you feel threatened because you have a single woman, single mom that lives in DC by herself, okay? Let's point this out. She lives in the heart of DC by herself and a mom, and she just wants to be able to protect herself. Here's the real kicker: she did not have a firearm. She didn't even own a firearm yet. She was going through training with me so that way that she can get her firearm and feel a little bit more comfortable about owning and dealing with the firearm before she actually went to buy one. And so that story always kind of sticks with me because I felt so bad for her because I'm like, I wish I had known better at that time to tell her to not have those conversations with people. It's really, really sad, but that was the facts and truth. They literally checked her locker and everything. I'm not sure how long she was on administrative leave, but she definitely was on administrative leave and under review for this so-called being threatened, someone being threatened. So, have you guys come across any kind of interesting, crazy stories with firearms and just showing somebody or telling somebody about a picture or video that you were at the range? So definitely one of those things. And even I do see somebody saying they noticing more women at the range. I definitely have noticed the same thing. Over the years, it definitely has been more interest of women going to the range. I know NRA even has a whole department dedicated to women. They have a class called Women on Target, which is something I've also helped be a part of. I love that class. It's actually a really great beginner's class to help women kind of break into being a marksman. And so, and to help you get over any kind of fears or any apprehensions that you may have about firearm use being a woman. It's coming from a woman perspective. It's taught by women, and it's a really good class. But then they also have like the whole department geared towards women. It's NRA Women. You guys can check it out. They have a lot of great tips like good concealed carry firearms that a lot of women like, or different type of holsters and things that women like, and they may have spotlight stories of different women that are in the gun community, even as well as the sport arena as well. So that's one of those things. And I'm so glad DMV Renovations learned that you don't even tell anybody. I mean, honestly, I tell all my students, you guys definitely want to make sure your firearm is a surprise. Should be a surprise. I mean, I don't even want to tell my neighbors about it, honestly. I don't know if any of my neighbors are on here right now, but we won't ever have that conversation about how many firearms I have. And I've had students that ask me, and I'm like, you can keep guessing. I'm not going to tell you. How many firearms do I have on my person at the time? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. That's usually my response because it's one of those things that's very private. You don't need to have that discussion with anybody. The firearm is a last resort. It's not anything to boast about. It's not anything to, brag about. It's literally a last resort for your self-defense needs in order to protect you. All right, so let's talk about this though. Let's see. So, of course, the basics of firearm safety is definitely extremely, extremely important. It's the very basic thing you can do is keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. I've heard some people to even say, don't point at anything that you don't intend to destroy. That has been one of the most extreme definitions that I've seen and heard, but I have heard it before, and I definitely agree with it because honestly, it's one of those things where the gun just needs to be pointed in the same direction always. Always treat it like it's loaded, no matter if you know it's loaded or not, because that's when accidents happen, right? And then that very last thing I always like to stress to every single student is keep your finger off the trigger until you're actually ready to shoot. So I guarantee you now, after today, you're gonna watch TV, you're gonna see something on YouTube, and you're gonna be like, Mrs. Trouble, they got their finger on the trigger. It's so many times you can watch a YouTube video, you can watch a movie, and they got their finger on the trigger unnecessarily. Or they're just loosey goosey which way they point the firearm. So it's one of those things where you guys need to be very intentional about where you point that firearm, regardless if it's loaded or not. Always be careful and mindful of that. So let's see. When it comes to legal considerations, we do understand that every state is a little bit different. Of course, we're only talking about the United States here. Every state is very different as to what their gun laws are. And that's a little bit kind of tricky because, you have one state that says you can have, for example, 20 rounds of ammunition in your gun. And then you have another state that would say you can only have 10 rounds. So be always mindful of what the law is. If you're not familiar with the law, there's definitely different tools out there to be able to help you with that. But if you are going to be a firearm owner, it's extremely important for you not only to know how to use the firearm, you have to know when to use the firearm. So that comes with you understanding the law. And then you don't want to get yourself caught up in situations like they do change laws here and there, okay? That, for example, they had a ban on different kind of brace for your rifles and things. And so now they're changing that. At one point in time, it was okay for us to make firearms that didn't, they considered them to be untrackable guns. That was legal, and then now it's not. So it's just so many different things that you guys have to make sure you stay up to date with. But the biggest one I always like to tell people to pay attention to because it does change or it is subject to change is the red flag law. um, and if you're not familiar with that, there's also a yellow flag law as well. If you're not familiar with that, I can explain that. Does anybody here already know what the yellow flag law or the red flag law is? I'm just curious before I go into that. Oh, good question. Somebody asked, do you carry loaded? Haha. So each state may have a little bit difference in their laws about that. And when it comes to the fact that, oh, you're in Texas. Well, Texas, they love guns. So I'm sure you could carry a loaded firearm in Texas. um, but each state is going to be a little bit different as to how they want to govern that. But what I will tell you is if you do decide to carry your firearm with it loaded, you want to make sure that you're comfortable. And I mean very comfortable. I can give you some tips right now for that. So, the comfortable with that is you may decide to wear the firearm around the house first with no ammunition in it. Just, cook, clean, watch TV, whatever it is you want to do with the firearm in your holster, just walk around the house, no ammunition in it. And just do that for a couple of days, maybe a week to get yourself comfortable and used to it. And then once you're used to it being there in your holster safely and it's unloaded, everybody's safe, then you can put ammunition inside of the magazine, assuming that you're carrying a semi-automatic. Okay. Um, if you're carrying a revolver, then you can go ahead and just load it. But when it comes to the semi-automatic, you can just go ahead and put it inside the magazine and just walk around the house again a couple of days till you feel comfortable, right? And once you feel comfortable with that, then you could decide to go ahead and put one inside the chamber and then continue to carry it. Um, but what I will tell you is you need to be comfortable doing it the way that you need to do it. If your goal is to have one inside the chamber, you do that. practice like that at the range too. Okay. Um, but then I also have met some people. I've actually met a Secret Service agent that told me that he had a bad experience with having one in the chamber. From that moment on, he would never carry one inside the chamber ever again. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like, he's like top notch security of the world. And he literally told me that he doesn't carry one in the chamber. And I was like, okay, well, to each his own. But he practices that way. So his response time is still spot on because when he goes to the range, he makes sure he racks back and then he shoots. So if you're going to have it where one is not inside the chamber, still practice that way when you go to the range. Make sure you rack it back and then shoot. Because honestly, you never want to be in that situation where you have to use your firearm. The adrenaline is rushing and everything, and you can't even think clearly, and you rely on your muscle memory, and then you stumble, and you forget that there's not one in the chamber. So it's one of those things you do have to be mindful of to practice that way. Someone said, "I'm scared the gun will go off in my pocket." Okay, well, the thing is, the gun should not even be in your pocket, at least not loose. There are ways of carrying the firearm in your pocket, and but there's a holster. Your gun should always be holstered. Anytime that you have a gun, it should always be holstered. It should always be secured. Okay. So if it's not secured away in a safe somewhere or with a lock on it, it should be on your person in a holster. If you're going to carry it in a bag, there is different bags that are made with secure departments, I'm sorry, for guns. So definitely make sure that you do that as well. Make sure it's always secured. All right. So when it comes to, let's see. All right. So when it comes to, let me just go to the next thing here. Oh, for those that need to get used to firearm usage, the person who was asking about carry one loaded or not, and you're in Texas, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of like gun clubs or firearm instructors and things that you can reach out to so that you can get familiar and get comfortable. Continue to practice. Practice is definitely something that's going to make permanent, is what I was told. Some people like to say perfect, but none of us are perfect. So I always like to say permanent. I think that was a better explanation. So the more you practice in a certain way, the more you get familiar and comfortable with doing things in that way. And so get with a gun club, or and I'm sure they have some women gun clubs out there. If you're a woman, I'm not sure. Even if you're a guy, it doesn't matter. They have gun clubs out there, and they do have firearm instructors pretty much everywhere now. So definitely get with somebody who's knowledgeable, who's licensed, not just a friend or a family member, okay? And I'm gonna tell you the difference with that is you may have a friend or a family member that's very awesome at firearms, okay? Tell you guys a little secret here. My husband is an awesome firearm instructor, and at first I just didn't listen to him. He wasn't able to train me. He had to get me a female instructor to help me first. And then once I got everything together, then I was able to listen to what he said. I don't understand what it was, but over the years, I've learned so many other women are the same way with their husbands. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least I wasn't by myself. So, but there is a certain level of patience and understanding that a licensed instructor may have versus a family member or a friend. And especially someone who may have been in the military, they could be a bit pushy. They really could be a bit pushy if someone's been in the military because they're used to, there's a different approach with firearms when you are in the service of any sort. So you're going to the danger, and so it's more urgent. It's more frontline and going to the danger. But as a civilian, we're expected to defend ourselves. We're supposed to be on the offense, and so we defend ourselves when we need to. When it comes to the police, military, or any kind of service person, it's a different thought process. So their approach is a little bit more aggressive. Let's see. If you got to not carry one in the chamber. You don't need a gun. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So some people, it just varies depending on as far as one in the chamber or not. Everybody's different, but again, it's all about what you're comfortable with. And it's all about how you practice when you go to the range. You can also practice at home with dry fire. So, or you can get some dummy rounds or snap caps to practice with at home as well. So that way you're prepared with a reaction time that's going to be more comfortable for you and quick. Oh, so that's a good point. Someone said they don't like guns, but they don't want to be a victim, so they carry. Okay. There are less than lethal options. Again, guns are not for everybody. And you might be putting yourself more at harm's way of the repercussions and consequences behind having or using a gun when you're very like on the line or on the fence of even having one. So may look into the laws of your state for like a mace, taser, knives. Some states allow batons. Um, they have those things that goes on your key. I don't know what they're called, but it's kind of pokey. It can break glass. They have all types of different less than lethal things. And I would even encourage you to carry both. You know, carry both. There are places in which you can carry those less than lethal things, but you can't carry a gun. So that's definitely something I would definitely suggest. I mean, even the police have it. They have mace, they have batons, they have all types of things on their belt besides a gun because not every situation actually even causes for a gun. So that's something to know. Oh, when it's in your purse, you feel like everyone can see it. So when it comes to that, it's just your subconscious playing games with you, I would say. But I would encourage you that if you're going to carry your firearm, it's best to have it on your person as much as possible. Okay. And the reason I feel strongly about that is because if someone steals your purse, which is the first thing a robber is going to come for, then you don't have your gun. And then where's your defense? What stops them from coming back for some more of you in that case? So I would say it's best to have it on your person if you can help it. And there are plenty of ways for people to conceal carry as well. So it's a lot of different types of options. And I know your attire would, differ like how you would actually carry one day versus another as well. So consider that. And there are also purses that are made specifically for gun carry. So I hope you have a purse that has a concealed carry pocket so that it's secure and safe. I mean, if you're anything like me, I can't even find my keys in my purse. So there's no way I'm carrying my gun in my purse because I can't find nothing in my purse. I find everything other in my purse. Baby bow rats, pacifier. When my kids was little, I would find baby shoes. Um, so many things in my purse. So everything I would find besides the gun, I'm sure, in a time of need. So that's another reason why I'm suggesting put it on your person. Because if your purse is anything like mine, it's a mess. Okay, so this is a really big impact for women, though. There are so many women that feel very unprotected because they may not have that male figure in their life that can protect them. And then there's so many other women out there that feel like they're just not about that life. They're not one to even think about taking another life or harming another being. And so you do have to understand, not everybody's for firearms, and that is okay. But what I want for all women is for you to be your first line of defense and actually fight if you need to. So there's so many things you can do. Even screaming is a weapon against someone trying to attack you because if you scream, you're alerting others that you're in danger and you need some help. If you freeze up and you don't say nothing, nobody don't know. But definitely kick, fight, do whatever you got to do to get away. That's the goal. So even if you choose a less than lethal option like a mace, pepper spray, or a baton, or a taser, the goal for you is to stop the threat from coming after you and for you to get out. So it's not necessarily the goal for you to take that person down. The goal is for you to be able to get away. So if you think about it in that way, you can also use your firearm in that way as well. If you have to use it in a line of self-defense, you shoot until the threat stops, meaning until the person stops coming after you and you can be able to run away and get away and call the authorities. So that's basically also something that can really help you if you're a little bit fearful about firearm use. But make no mistake, if someone comes in your house, then hey, what are you going to do? You know, your home and your space. They came and invaded you, so you have to defend yourself. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Now, when it comes to the firearm choices, does anybody have particular guns that you like? Is there a particular brand or make or model that's your favorite for conceal? I'm just curious because I know when it comes to that, a lot of my students always ask, "Well, Sheena, what's the best gun to buy?" And I'm like, I'm going to tell you Sig all day." But everybody's different. Oh, Glock. I'm not a Glock fan, but I do still recommend Glock for quite a bit of my students. I have my students shoot different brands, and they, based on whatever you how you perform is the one that I tell you is good for you. So that's kind of how I do it. I don't want to have any biases towards my students. Yay, sick. But to each his own. It's no one thing that's gonna fit everybody. Oh, I love H&K as well. Are you left-handed by any chance, H&K? When it comes to H&K, they make quite a bit of guns that's ambidextrous too. So for anybody who is a left-hander out there or shoot left-handed, it's probably a good bet for you to get an H&K because most likely you're going to find a gun that's going to be good for your comfort, and you'll be able to do things with your left hand more than other brands, because other brands sometimes they have things ambidextrous and sometimes they don't. Most of the time they don't. Rather, they discriminating against my left-handed people out there. All right, so when it comes to how often does a person supposed to shoot, I get that question a lot too. Um, when it comes to how often, I would say as often as your pockets would allow, because shooting sports is kind of expensive. We all know that. But bare minimum, you guys should be making it to the range at least every 3 months. That is the bare minimum. Okay, don't make it past 3 months without going to the range. Okay, but in a perfect world, I would tell you once a week. I would tell you once a month. Somewhere around those lines is probably very ideal for you to be comfortable and be able to have a quick response time. Okay. Okay. And you're ambidextrous and yep, left-hander. Yep. Okay. Okay. So when it comes to that left-handed community, I'm glad you found the brand that actually works good for you, and that's a blessing because I know that response time is going to be really quick for you if you get a gun that's you're left-handed and the controls is on the side of the gun that you need on the right hand side of the gun. So, oh, you like Taurus? That's an interesting one right there. Okay, so I will say, what is it? Was it the G? Somebody help me out. The G2C, is that the older one or the newer one? Because I like the newer one is better. I don't like the older one. The older one has like two. Thank you. The G3. Okay. I know that response time on that trigger is ridiculous. That trigger just goes back so far for me, and it just takes entirely too long. That's why I like Sig. Actually, I like Sig because it's quick. The trigger is very quick for me, and I personally like that. But I've had many students that prefer the Taurus because of how that trigger is. It allows them to concentrate a little bit more on the trigger, how they pull the trigger back. So that's a really good thing for you to know, though, that you guys understand already what guns it is that you prefer. So for anybody out there who has not bought a gun or who is in the market of buying a new gun, definitely you can always check out our website, troubledefense.com. And on our website, under the resources tab, there is a link for a website you can buy firearms there. And of course, no firearms can be mailed to your home. All the firearms have to be going through an FFL dealer. Okay, so you will find an FFL dealer in your home state, close to your residence as much as possible, and have it mailed to where you need it to be mailed to. But they have pretty good prices on that website. So troubledefense.com, and then go to the resources tab right at the top of the page, and you'll see shop for guns or some kind of tab we have at the top that specifies that. I'm really happy that you guys know the guns that you like, and thank you for verifying for me that the G2 is the old one and G3 is the new one. I have a G2. I don't like it, and I've used one of my students' G3, and I was like, okay, this was better. I can tolerate it. Okay. Another gun that really surprised me. Oh gosh, what is the name of that gun I like? Hmm. I know I like Smith and Westerns a lot. Those are pretty comfortable on my hand, but Glock has always been the one that's very uncomfortable. Gosh, he said I'm broke. Hey, when it comes to guns, I understand. All of us probably gonna be broke at a moment's notice because these guns are not cheap. So it's one of those things where you're gonna have to weigh your options, do your research, and find out which one you want to buy first, and then go back and buy another one. I'm sure. But yeah, that website that I'm telling you guys about, they do have pretty good prices there too. So you got definitely check out that. All right, so. um, I wanted to talk about one more thing that was a little bit more serious about keeping these guns out of these children's hands. Okay, so I was looking at some research and came across the Attorney General talking about the fact that he's declaring it a public health crisis, is the words he chose to say, for gun violence. Okay. So when we hear the word gun violence, and if you're anything like me, when I hear that, I think somebody's murdered somebody. Okay, but that's not always the case. So sometimes it's the fact that you have suicide or some sort of accidental discharge, uh, and ultimately ending someone's life by way of a firearm. So that's gun violence. Okay, and when he broke it down, he also he said that we're having a public health crisis, and so immediately that puts everybody in hysteria. Okay, and then he also goes in and say how our children is the ones that's mostly affected by this. Okay. Now, these are the statistics that the Attorney General said out himself. He said that 56% of the gun violence is suicide, about 56%. Okay. And then about 40% is homicide, and about 5% is accidental discharges. Okay. So what that goes to tell me is that we probably more so because of that 56%, more so than anything, we have a mental health crisis on our hands, not necessarily a gun violence issue. Uh, when we really think about it, when we break it down, the guns doesn't hurt people. Only people wielding the gun hurts people. Okay, and so this is one of those things that is very controversial, I know, and so I'm only putting out my point of view, but maybe some of you guys disagree out there. But I honestly feel like if we can focus on our mental health, that would help America so much more. Okay, when it comes to the fact of someone, for example, kids grew up with this whole everybody wins, everybody gets a trophy. So, what do you think that does to our psyche? What do you think that tells you when you're a kid, all through your kid life, you playing sports and you're doing things, everybody wins, everybody gets a trophy, and then bam, you're an adult. Guess what? You're going to lose some. You're not going to win. But what do you think that does to your psyche? How do you think you're supposed to react? How do you think you are going to react when you have a loss? When you've been taught your entire life that everybody wins. So these are some of the things that we really have to focus on as a nation. We have to actually teach our children how to deal with loss, regardless if it's a loss of a loved one or is it the fact that they're not winning in life at the moment. Because we're all going to fail at some point. We're all going to do something that's going to set us back, or we're going to feel like we're at a standstill. We're not going to be moving to the direction that we want to win in our accomplishments, not all the time. So we got to know how to maneuver and deal around that. And honestly, I think a lot of our kids are not growing up with those type of self-help skills. So social emotional development and self-control on how we feel about things, this really important skills to teach our children. Okay, so definitely help me along the lines of getting that message out there. Make sure that everybody knows that, because that is extremely, extremely important. That's actually the root of our problem if we really want to be serious about it, because people were killing people before guns were even created. You don't need a gun to 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 hurt someone. You don't need a gun to murder somebody. That's just only one tool, and it's actually the tool that's chosen a lot of times because it's quick and easy. Okay, but honestly, you can use anything for a weapon. People were doing it before guns were created. So that's one of those things that I want you guys to help me get that word out there, please. So when it comes to our kids, it's also important for them to understand what guns are supposed to be used for, because the media, um, social media, the news, all these type of things have this certain narrative, and this narrative is usually very narrow towards negativity. But what about those kids that were raised in the country and they got 50 guns in their home and nobody ever got hurt? They ain't never bothered those guns because their parents or their grandparents took them out in the backyard to shoot when they was 10 years old. Most likely, those are the kids that grow up respecting firearms. They raise their kids up the same way, and those kids are not touching guns either. I mean, I remember as a kid going to my grandfather's house in North Carolina, and he had guns in a glass case. Me and my sister never touched those guns, never ever, because it was just one of those things where you just didn't do it. And if we wanted to learn how to do it, all we had to do was tell him, and he would take us hunting with him or something. So those are one of those perspectives that also you guys can be a deer and really help me press that narrative to our communities, because it's extremely important. They want to take all these things out of school. They want to take people praying and pledging allegiance and all these things out of school, right? They did that. Now they want to put in there, they want to take out books now. They're taking out books, some books that they say got so much sexual content. Well, that was also a whole nother debate about that in my district. And it's one of those things where I was against it too, because I felt like, first of all, if a kid is going to pick up something to read it, that's important. Because honestly, you couldn't pay me to read nothing when I was a kid. So I'm happy if my kids are picking up a book and reading it. And the thing is, these kids out here are already gonna be, some are having STDs, some are having babies and things like that. I'm talking about high school kids at this point, even middle school kids. And so you're telling me they can't read something about some sexual activity when they're actually out here already doing it? So make it make sense, people. Make it make sense. Because really, we're setting our kids up for failure because we want to keep them being a baby until they turn 18. And then when they turn 18, boom, the world hits them and it hits them hard. So what I'm asking you guys to do is help us get our kids to have a transition point from being a kid to being an adult. And so the thing is, they're going to get this information anyway about guns. They're going to get this thing about sex anyway. Everything is going to be given to them. It's just a matter of us to help filter what information, how they receive it, how they interpret this information. So it's our job to do that. And when it comes to guns, it's extremely important to make sure that they understand healthy habits and healthy behavior around firearms. So you guys have to be the perfect model about that. So you have to model, if you're cleaning your firearm, make sure you keep the firearm pointed in the safe direction, and that, you have no ammunition anywhere near. So that's a good model, because if they walk past and they see you cleaning the gun, they see you doing safe, habits, safe practices, and then when you are carrying your firearm, that you're not just putting it in your pants, you're going to put it in the holster. When you put the firearm away in the house, that you're going to put it away. You're not just putting it out, sitting on the table, or putting it behind a pillow or something of that nature. So those are some things you could do as well. Yeah, and definitely kids have a lot of option these days. Definitely. So one of the things that I see a lot is they're talking about, who's male, who's female, who's furry, for God's sakes. All of this is happening in our schools, but yet we cannot talk about gun safety. I mean, I just got banned last week for doing a gun safety presentation on live on YouTube. And, I was mad at first. I have to be honest. I was actually really disappointed that YouTube has this policy that you can't go live and handle a firearm at the same time. I was like, mind blown. That's my job. This is what I do. But if I had to really be honest, first I should have read the policy because I need to know the law, right? Have to know what the rules are, right? So that's number one. So I was at fault for that, not knowing that that policy was changed. And then the other part about this is we just had a kid in June to kill himself in some part of Virginia. I can't think of what part of Virginia it is, but I know it's only a few hours away from me. Uh, who killed himself on social media live because he was rapping or something and he accidentally shot himself being live. So when I think about it like that, I'm like, okay, and this is not the first case. So I think about it like that. I'm like, okay, now I understand why YouTube is saying, no one can go live while handling a firearm because the sad truth is we live in the US and who's going to get the blame? The social media platform is going to get the blame, which is really ridiculous because the kid is the person who did it. But no parent wants to blame their child. No parent wants to give their kid that responsibility. But the actual truth is we have to give our kids the responsibility. They go outside outdoors every day and make decisions for themselves all day long outside of our presence. And we have to understand that they have to be able to make those decisions for themselves. So you guys equip them with the knowledge and the tools they need to be able to keep themselves safe and make good decisions in your absence. Don't just say, oh, they're my kids, I'm gonna make the decision for them. Because I'm telling you, that's how you end up having a kid that makes some bad decisions in your absence. So really take the time and educate your guys' kids. Does anybody have any questions about any tips about keeping your kids safe? I'm just trying to read some of this now here. Let's see. I do have a program for kids safety, and it's called Shield Kids. We actually do a free presentation on through the metaverse. I don't know if you guys know about the metaverse, but the metaverse is a platform for the VR headset. Oculus Quest is the platform that we use, and we do our classes. You can use Zoom if you don't have an Oculus, but it is a free seminar that we do, and we do this once a month. If you guys want any information about that, you can send us a message or anything for Trouble Defense, and I'll be able to help you guys get some information about that. But it's called Shield Kids. We do it's a live presentation, well, more of a conversation because with kids you can't lecture them. We're not about lecturing them. We're about having a conversation with them. Have them ask questions, and we give them information and make sure they see things from their perspective so that they can be able to relate. I have to put myself in kids' shoes and understand that when I was a kid growing up in DC, there was a lot of fears, okay? And I did have friends that had guns, but at that time, people weren't carrying guns to school. They would bring them, outside of school. They'll wait for you after school, things like that. But now these kids are bringing them in school, okay? So I can understand they have a lot of fears and they would want to have firearm protection because somebody else has a gun. But we have to also teach them that there are other things of other ways of protecting yourself. Sometimes just making better decisions, which is hanging around a different crowd of people. That's one. And another thing is educating them about the different laws because, if they understand the consequences to some of these things, they might not be so quick to jump to that. They may be quick to do something else because the consequences sometimes are a lot greater than what they may think. And if they're reminded of who they are affecting, because you have some kids that have actually said out their mouths that they don't care about their own life. I've heard some kids say this, but you know what they do care about? They care about their parents' life. They care about their siblings' life and how their family members feel. So, with that being said, if you do have some kids like that just act like they don't care about nothing, remind them that their decisions affect you or affect their loved ones. And that might actually really help them and motivate them to make some better decisions. Okay, so somebody else said, um, okay, just trying to see here. Oh yeah, good point. Now that YouTube shows sex but not gun training. ah, Yeah, that is definitely true. I definitely have seen some things and I'm like, wow, that's able to go live? Okay, sure. I mean, we have cartoons pushing, kid shows pushing sexuality and things too. So that's another big thing that's happening. But we can't talk about gun safety. I can't tell you how many schools told me no, I cannot come in there and talk about gun safety because I'm not going to try to go into schools and teach about guns to kids to use. I'm trying to teach them to stay away from guns and not be one of the statistics in hurting themselves or others. So that's also another area that I'm really fighting for to try to get into organizations with children so that I can talk to the kids directly and they can hear from someone else who's not their parent and maybe it might stick. Because it's one of those things where sometimes you just need somebody outside of your parent to say something. Okay. Yeah, and why is it not in schools? That is a good question. But I know Texas is one of those states that does have some schools where teachers are allowed to conceal carry if they have a concealed carry permit, if they have the right training. So that is also another very controversial conversation. But I do know that some Texas schools have actually implemented that they do have teachers that actually conceal carry. And so the thing is, certain things about firearms is just people's way of life. If you live in a city area or you grew up in a city area, you're probably having the notion that firearms are bad, that only thugs have firearms or police officers or military, some kind of official personnel has a firearm or either a bad person, okay? But if you grew up in a more rural area, you probably have the thought process this is the way of life. Everybody has a gun. Everybody has multiple guns because we have property, we have land, we have, things like that that we have to protect. And so the mindset about firearms are very different in those settings as well. So that's why Texas can implement something like that and probably not get a whole lot of backlash, probably. But of course, we do have those situations like Sandy Hook, where, in the other schools in which they had mass shootings. But I'm still going to go back to tell you guys this also falls back to mental health. Someone who is in their right mind does not pick up a gun and go shoot up innocent children. Someone in their right mind does not go and shoot up anybody, period. Random people that has nothing to do with their situation at a mall or at a concert. That's not a typical mindset of an everyday person. Usually there's a mental health situation there. So going back to that mental health, because it's about who's wielding the gun. All right, so I'm just checking to see if I have any more questions here. Hmm. How do I, as an adult, take classes with the company, and what are the details of the class? So we offer concealed carry classes. We also offer, concealed carry classes for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we do a lot of our classes like a blended learning platform. So you get some of it in a live virtual course, and then some of it will be in person, hands-on at the range. So that's how we do our trainings. You can find out about them at troubledefense.com. If you live in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, we'll be happy to help you. We also do one-on-one range sessions. And because I'm a woman advocate, I also do a monthly Babe Day Out. Babe being an acronym for Be Aware, Be Elegant. So if you guys have any, if you yourself or if you know anyone that might want to sign up, definitely hit us up and just let us know and we'll get you guys scheduled. But we do that once a month where we have women with like minds that want to go to the range and learn how to shoot or just feel a little bit more comfortable about whatever skills they may have. The next date that I have for that is actually July 14th for our Babe Day Out. And our next concealed carry class is coming up a little sooner. I think it's the 10th. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. Let's see. Somebody else asked, the law is flawed. You got drug problems in school, but not gun safety. Oh, yeah, that is facts. That is definitely facts. Now, it's sad because a lot of this stuff kind of revolves back around to money. It's really, really sad how the world is designed here or how the US is designed in some ways. No thanks, I don't want my kids' teachers with guns. Yeah, I hear you about that. I'm kind of on the defense. I'm on the fence with that one myself because putting a gun in one of the teacher's hands is about making sure that teacher has the adequate training. If they had the adequate training, I wouldn't mind. But who's to say? Who's the person who's supposed to run that department to make sure these teachers have adequate training? And then there's also the thought process about, does the kid know that the teacher has a gun? They should not know. That's what I would think. I don't really know how they regulate it. I didn't reach that far deep into that information to understand how they regulate this thing. But definitely, I think it should be maybe a hand select few teachers, okay? Maybe like one on each floor or one on each quarter of, each section of the school. So that way, if there is a mass shooter, that somebody can respond. If we're going to do this, then make it make sense, okay? But there are, different approaches to that and different thought processes, because you have to also think like, what if that gun lands in one of the kids' hands? You got these kids out here, these kids a lot. I don't know how these teachers do it. They might want to, decide to take the gun from the teacher. So that's also something to think about. But having retention on those holsters is extremely important. So they shouldn't be able to get it off the teacher. But those are things to consider. So, but I would have to hear the plan full through to say yes or no if I would want my kid's teacher to have a gun, because honestly, they gonna be around guns all their life. In the house, they around guns. When they go out, you never know. Any person may have a gun. So it's pretty much no different for real. Okay, so what about an unemployed veteran? Yeah, that would make sense. Now, what I will say about our veterans is they do have the basics of safety, but we have to be mindful that veterans come from all types of backgrounds. Not every MOS is an MOS that handles firearms. Yes, all military do have to go through some sort of training at basic training, but not all of them actually handle firearms. So it would need to be an MOS that does handle firearms. This is why homeschooling is better. Oh, that's another good topic right there. So I considered that at one point, but then I thought about it. Homeschooling for my kids, I don't want to, because I want them to have the social, emotional, interactive skills that they need to deal with all types of people. Okay. I don't want them to go into the world, just knowing our family and whatever other extended family or friends we may have. And then they go out in the world as an adult, and now they have to learn how to communicate and deal with other people from different cultures and different backgrounds, different races. And so I felt like I'm just going to have to cultivate them. I'm going to have to help them through this school system. I'm going to have to be there present, show up to the school if I need to, talk to the teachers. Don't just be an absent, parent in the school. I have to actually go to the school activities, that the kids and the teachers can see that they have parents present is extremely important. It's going to help cultivate the things that happen in their school into them and around them, and how the teachers interact with them. So that was my decision. I decided to do that because of that. So I thought about it. I mean, this world is crazy. I mean, you had COVID happening. Now you got guns, the schools being shot up. I mean, what's the difference of us actually going to a mall and the mall gets shot up? What's the difference of us going on the train or the bus and the bus or the train gets shut up? So it's like one of those things where I don't want my children to walk around through life in fear. And it's really, really a thin line. It's a very thin line. But everybody's different. Make the decision that's best for you and your family. And not trust me, I'm with you. Whatever decision you decide to make, you made it was best for you and your family. Let's see. Your kids don't get a second chance at life. This is not a video game. That is definitely facts. Definitely facts. Yeah, we got to get it right the first time with a lot of these things. But I mean, we're not perfect. Like I said from the beginning, we're not perfect. So we're going to have mistakes made, to and around and for our children. And now we have to teach them how to pivot. They have to understand how to make decisions around that. All right, let's see. All right, so for the last bit here, I'm going to go ahead and close it up soon here. I wanted to know if any of you guys wanted to be a part of a live discussion next Friday to tell your point of view of firearms, whether you're for or against it. I am looking for ladies that would like to be on here live with me and have that interaction so that the world can see. Even if you're not even in the States, I am very much open to opinions of someone who is overseas to tell us what they think might be some good ways of life. Maybe we're not seeing things from all sides because we're only tunnel vision to what our immediate area is. So definitely let me know. Send us a message and let us know if you are interested in being a part of that live discussion next week. From your perspective, what do you think about firearms in general? Okay. Um, so if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe and also share the channel. We do have some more interesting interviews coming up soon. I'm hoping you guys already checked out the other ones. If you haven't, please do so because honestly, we have some really fascinating women that we're doing interviews with, and they are explaining to you their life story. And we're also challenging them to shoot firearms, and that part is so fun. Oh my gosh. I have some women that are actually afraid and they decided to trust me enough to allow me and Monique to train them and get them familiar and comfortable. And they attempted it even though they were afraid. So I'm really proud of them that they faced their fears. And so we were empowering each other. So it was really, really interesting. But then their stories. Their stories is what captivate me to continue because it's like you never know who you meet, what kind of background they have, what you might know what someone does for a living, but you don't understand what actually motivated them, what inspired them to do it. And so I'm bringing those stories to the surface for them. And also just to inspire you guys because I don't know what your interests are. Sure, we're all here. Obviously we have some interest in firearms, but I don't know if you're a hairdresser, if you're a mechanic, you're a bus driver. I don't know what other things you guys do. And so your story does deserve to be told too. So it might inspire someone else to live their dreams. You never know. And you said if you got your face on, maybe. Hey, look, I'm going to tell you, no judgments. I don't even wear makeup. So if you have your face on or not, it's okay. You're welcome. You can definitely join us if you would like. And if you want to talk about it a little bit more, we'll link up and we'll get in contact with you to make sure that you are a part of this discussion if you would like to share your point of view. I would very much like that. But thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It has been awesome. Over 1,000 subscribers. You guys made that possible. And definitely continue to share, please, so we can get more people interested in this. And if you guys know anybody who's interested in doing an interview with us too, that would be awesome. We are looking for more women. Although I know we have a lot of male fans here, which is great. Thank you guys so much. This show wouldn't be anything without our males because you guys are dominating in numbers of subscribers, which is really awesome. I really appreciate that. That means you guys are getting the information you need to support the women that are in your lives too. And then there's a lot of content I put out there that's very generalized. It's not male or female. So I really appreciate that. And it's because of you guys, I'm definitely continue to do this fast because I'm telling you, whoo, for a moment I was like, I might need to give this up, but I don't think so. I'm gonna stick it in there. I very much love what I do. I love helping you guys, and always let me know if you guys have any questions or comments. I'll do my best to answer them and help you guys along the way. Y'all have a good night. Thank you so much.